The skyline of Johannesburg has always been dominated by that one building known as the Ponte building, that circular building that's had Coca-Cola advertised on it, Telkom is advertised on it. But you know what? What we've decided is to go and have a look, because Monet saw that they do tours. So, here we go. Hey, how's it, Sifiso? How are you, man?
Hi, man. How's it?
Are you
Welcome
good?
to Ponte. I'm all good, man. And yourself?
Great stuff, man. Great stuff, man. Yeah. Listen, that was really interesting that at the gate there, the guy said that you're so surprised that you South Africans coming to have a look.
Although that has been the case for years when we started doing the tours, but then we do now have quite a lot of South Africans visiting. Most people aren't aware that the building has been turned around. Maybe they still think there's garbage in the middle, it's hijacked or anything like that. But then the building has been renovated and it opened its doors all the way back in 1976. So welcome to the community center. Yeah, so this is us, Dlalanje. Yeah. So Dlalanje, it's a Zulu word for just place. So we started in 2012, where we started as an arcade game center, just providing a safe space for the kids, so that they don't go out in the streets. You know, the park are a public sport for the kids to play, but because one of the challenges in the neighborhoods, it's a high drugs, so it's very easy for the young ones to mix with bad company. And then over here, we've got the sewing program in that room. So most of the computers were donated by a company called Two Rods, just to help us upskill the kids with computer literacy at a very, very early age. So we do have a volunteer who comes to arts with the teenagers on weekends and the young ones during the week, and we also have scouts. The kids are under scouts to teach them discipline, survival skills, how to set up tents and all that. I just wanna let the view kill you first before I come through. Okay, so this is how high we are. You can hardly see all the way down.
It's funny, I never thought I would be in this position of being in the Ponte like this. Very, very strange feeling, actually. Are they busy renovating the flats? What is sort of happening now?
The building completely opened again in 2012 when all the apartments were renovated. So now what they will do is that if a tenant moves out, they will repaint, fix what's broken, and prepare it for the next tenants that's going to be coming through. So welcome to the 51st floor. So this is an event space. So we host, this is where our tour starts and end. We also host debriefing meetings, lunches, dinners, and sundowners. So the sunset just close to the tower, especially now we go into winter, it just set next to the tower, so you will capture nice pictures later on the day up here. And then most of the stuff up here are for sale: the art, the shirts, the bags. So the bags that you see over there, they are the one that being sold from this sewing room at the Skills and Development Center. So they come from down there. The building opened in 1976. At that time, South Africa was still under the apartheid regime, and then we have three neighborhoods. So where the Telkom Tower is, that's Hillbrow, this is Berea, and across the road, that's Yeoville. So these three neighborhoods were only meant for white people only at that time, and their stories you used to hear from people are absolutely incredible. People tell you stories of going around 3 a.m. in the morning to have a coffee at a local coffee shop. The Telkom Tower used to operate having that 360 degrees revolving restaurant, and Ponte was built in one of the most popular cities in the world, and it was built to house the most richest people that ever got to live around this neighborhood. Yeah, so one of the architecture of the building is a guy called Rodney Groskopf. So we've had the honor of meeting him and also finding out the concept of behind building the building. there were jokes that because of the hollow space in the middle, that actually when he designed the building, he was coming out of a rehab, you know, and people say that the hollow space symbolizes the amount of drugs that he had consumed in his life, you know. But then for him, he said actually there was a bylaw back in the 70s that stated that any building that was about 50 meters high needed to have its own window in the kitchen and in the bathroom. So all the kitchen and bathroom windows are facing the inner part, and also the bylaw stated that the natural sun needed to shine in those windows, you know. So so that's why it's hollow in the middle, to bring the air and also for the sun to shine in those windows, you know. You'll notice later on when we go down and look the building from the inner part, you will see that the first floor is actually a parking. So the apartments start from the 11th floor. At first, he was just building it for normal, affordable apartment, you know. By the time because I think the original structure was to build it until the 20th floor, but then the demand when people started seeing the building going up, you know, because it was going to be like a skyscraper, the interest from people started being very, very high, and then they ended up making it 54 floors high. Yeah.
What is the most surprising thing that the foreigners always talk about?
So one of the most, I would say, the most touching thing is actually to see someone coming on a tour very freaked out, you know, scared, because the first thing they booked the tour on their flight coming over here because they saw the reviews on TripAdvisor. And when they get to the hotel, the first thing they would hear is that, don't go there, it's dangerous, you know. And then because now they've booked the tour, and then the reviews are like, go, you know, they are curious to go and come to the tour. On the day of the tour, they get into an Uber. The Uber driver saying the same thing, like, I've never been there myself. Who are you going to see there, you know? And then when you welcome the guest in that fear, you know, and then as soon as we get into this space at the 51st floor, as soon as we open that door, you see that fear going away, you know. People are like, wow, it's so beautiful, you know. And then for the rest of the tour, you will notice that you will see that that fear has went, you know.
This is the good part. I've always been wanting to go into the bottom of the Ponte now. This is where we're going to go now. Yeah, it's going to be good.
So everyone is, most people are just amazed and surprised by the space. Mostly. Some are not aware that it's hollow in the middle, and then the final piece is that it's built on top of a rock. So it's breathtaking and fascinating to a lot of people. The garbage down here was piled up to 14 stories high, and 14 stories high, it's a floor above the whole crisscross. And it took them a space of 2.5 years to clear the space out, because as you can see, the first floor, it's a very small parking, you know. They couldn't fit forklifts, trucks. They were forced to hire people to take it out by hand, so that's why it took them so long. But the garbage also included all the rubble, because when the building was going through renovations, obviously they had to change the doors. You know how the old apartments used to be with the carpets on the wall. You know, they had to throw it all down here too, instead of having people running with wheelbarrows down on the corridors here. Or how many dead bodies were discovered over here, but there were dead bodies that were recovered. Mostly had already decomposed, you know, and in the rubble, yeah. Because some may have been killed by a gangster charged over here, or some may have committed suicide. In the late 90s towards the early 2000, the building was known as a suicidal center. People come here and throwing themselves down in the middle of the building.
God, imagine the smell.
When we grew up, if you asked your mom what happens in that building, what's happening, is it Vodacom offices or anything, they were like, if you fail school, that's where you're gonna end up, you know.
I mean, today that's just not on. I mean, that doesn't happen like that.
Yeah, that doesn't take place anymore. The management has turned the building around, renovating it and bringing people, legit people who can pay rates and take care of the building, you know. And one of them being Nicholas, and then founded Dlalanje, which has brought so much impact into the community, and on also spreading the word out there to say the building has been turned around, just trying to bring people from the north back into the city, because honestly, the honest truth is that most people have abandoned the inner city of Johannesburg, and then I think that where Nicholas and Michael Luptek has played a huge role in trying and changing the perception and bringing people back into the inner city. So we have the Ponte experience, which we just did, which is 1 hour long for 380 per person, and then we have the 2.5 hour long tour, which it's the tour of the building and the walk around the neighborhood, and then it includes a meal and a drink.